that's Jim Comey, former FBI director, fired by Trump in his first term. And now we've got a grand jury indictment because he photographed an arrangement of shells that said 8647. Walk us through, you've presented to countless probably grand juries. Walk us through a grand jury presentation and what in the world this might have looked like to grand jurors. How do you convince grand jurors that an arrangement of shells, let's say 8647, is a threat against the president of the United States?
You cannot convince them based on those facts, based on the applicable law, based on the constitutional protections of the First Amendment's free speech rights, particularly in the political speech arena. You cannot, unless there is something out there, a smoking gun, where right. James Comey wrote in an email, listen up, everybody, I intended this as a threat to assassinate the president. Still, I don't think it would be perceived that way because the dictionary definition of the slang term 86 does not include kill or assassinate. We can talk about how it was born of the restaurant industry. Hey, we ran out of meatloaf. You got 86 meatloaf from the menu.
Or in a bar, stop serving that guy. 86.
You got 86. That guy, he's drunk, right? So there is no, and I don't care if there was a Hollywood mob movie that says, "Hey, we got 86 act." That does not make for a supportable indictment. But just real quickly to talk through the grand jury presentation, you go in as a prosecutor, you present the evidence that you believe shows, one, a crime was committed, and two, you have adequate evidence of the identity of the perpetrator such that you ask the grand jury to vote out an indictment. But here's what people may not know. So first of all, it's our show in the grand jury. No defense attorney, no judge. It's us, the grand jurors, and a court reporter taking down every word we say. But we have a dual responsibility. We are presenting the evidence in our role as a prosecutor. We are also the legal advisor to the grand jury. So what we have to do is say, let me give you a fair, balanced recitation of the elements of the crime, what the evidence must show, must satisfy, must fulfill if you are to vote in favor of an indictment. And we've got to call that right down the middle. We're not really advocates at that moment. We are literally the legal advisor to the grand jury. Frank, I can envision no scenario where the prosecutor went into the grand jury, presented the evidence we've all seen about the 8647 seashell arrangement that Comey snapped a picture of, put up on Instagram and said, hey, look at this, a cool seashell arrangement I saw on my walk on the beach this morning. There is no set of facts and circumstances supporting a criminal indictment for that conduct. So what I think that will lead to is the judge ordering that the grand jury minutes, the tapes, the exhibits, the audio recordings, all of it be given to James Comey's defense attorneys. Now, maybe the judge starts incrementally by saying, give it to me first. Okay. I will examine it in chambers without the parties seeing it, without the defense seeing it, and I'll make a decision as to whether it was improper such that I should disclose it to Comey's lawyers. The test is not that well defined. The test is if there is a particularized need in the judge's determination that outweighs the traditions of grand jury secrecy, then the judge can order disclosure of the grand jury minutes. It is the broad discretion of the judge, and I have to believe the grand jury materials will end up in the hands of James Comey's defense attorney. Yeah,
Pat Fitzgerald, among others, who, correct me if I'm wrong, because if you're feeling, if our listeners are feeling like this is deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra said, didn't we get a grand jury transcript when Comey was prosecuted in the Eastern District of Virginia?
We did, and that's what resulted in the case being thrown out because the indictment was unlawfully obtained by Lindsay Halligan. They didn't even get to the vindictive prosecution claim. They didn't have to.
Yeah, unbelievable. And you think that the mere, I don't want to say mere, but the legal disconnect between a shell arrangement and intent to threaten the life of the U.S. president, you think that disconnect, without necessarily, is inherently wrong or problematic enough to get the judge to say, yeah, I want to see this transcript?
I think that's probably enough. And here's the thing, Todd Blanche went on some of the Sunday news shows. Oh, well, we have more evidence. Two things. One, he handed up to Comey on a silver platter the defense of selective prosecution by saying, sure, there are thousands of people who say 8647, who posted, who wear it on their T-shirts. They display it, and we got prosecuted exactly. None of them. You don't need to be a lawyer to see the selective nature of that prosecution.
And folks out there, we did not coordinate this, but we just happen to have that clip of Todd Blanche on a Sunday morning show really screwing up this case against Comey. Why don't we play that clip?
The image, excuse me, is part of what led to this indictment. Yes. It is worth noting that on Amazon.com, we looked this up, there are dozens of products with the same terminology. We're showing it right here, 8647 being sold and purchased right now. Should individuals selling or buying 8647 merchandise be concerned that they're going to be prosecuted by the DOJ?
This isn't about a single incident. Okay, this isn't, I mean, of course not. That's posted constantly. That phrase is used constantly. There are constantly men and women who choose to make threatening statements against President Trump. Every one of those statements do not result in indictments, of course. There are facts, there are circumstances, there are investigations that have to take place, and we have charged dozens and dozens of men and women this year with threatening President Trump and others. So this isn't a new charge we're bringing.
Just to be very clear, you are suggesting the seashells themselves are not at the root of this indictment.
No, I am suggesting that every single case depends on the investigation that's done. And of course, the seashells are part of that case.
You know what, Frank? If there was other incriminating evidence or information, you can bet DOJ would have dumped it into that indictment, right? And that sort of, and listen, Todd Blanche has been going on the Sunday shows and misrepresenting evidence in multiple cases. He got caught doing it in the Southern Poverty Law Center case, and I don't want to get off track here, but he literally said on one Sunday show or on one TV broadcast, there is no evidence that the Southern Poverty Law Center shared any information with the FBI or law enforcement authorities. And then he had to go crawling back on another Fox program and say, of course they give evidence selectively over time. It's well documented and everybody knows that. Well, everybody except you last week, Todd. Everybody else, I guess, knew it. But I mean, come on. He has completely disqualified himself as an honest broker of the facts.
Right. And that may qualify him just perfectly for Todd, for him to be the next Attorney General of the United States, which he seems to be.
But he's not very good at being a consigliere. I'm starting to believe Pam Bondi was actually a better consigliere to Donald Trump's mob boss than Todd. Todd is just stepping on it left and right.
Yeah, it is. It's mind-boggling. And if, he may meet the same fate as Pam Bondi if these cases just continue to crash and burn. His boss will not be happy.